Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the staff and myself, Ranger Brady, welcome to Guadalupe Mountains National Park. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a subject that's not necessarily widely known. Maybe it's in the back of your mind and you don't really give it much thought, but it's there and it's all around us. That's natural heritage. And natural heritage is kind of something we have to discuss to get a handle on what it means. And the natural part's fairly simple. It's the plants and animals all around us in the natural world, and some include even ourselves. But the heritage part is a little bit more complicated, and that's really where the meat of this topic comes in. What we're going to talk about is the first meaning, being history. The second meaning is cultural identity. And the third, which is really great to tie the whole thing up, is to reserve or preserve something for future generation. And so we are preserving our cultural identity through our history for the future. And that's really what we do in the national parks. We preserve all of these sites because they are a reflection of us as a people, as a culture, and the struggles that we endured against each other, the environment, etc. And so, in particular, at sites like Guadalupe Mountains National Park, you have to deal with a natural environment a lot more. And that's what we're really doing. We're trying to preserve the natural environment here, not only for its own sake, but for what it does for us, so that we can come and interact with this space and see who we really are. Because those who came before us, who built this country, had to at some point interact with this space. So, we have to try to preserve it. What does that entail? It entails a great many things. One thing that we have to deal with is exotic species. It's a hot button issue for us. Here we have a little plant called woolly mullein. It looks harmless enough, but it grows incredibly fast and crowds out all of the other native plants that are here. And one plant for another, what's that really mean? Okay, the natural space, but what does that have to do with our cultural identity and so on? Well, the Mescalero Apaches would really have a hard time living in a world that didn't have the plants they depended on, but only had woolly mullein. After all, their name, Mescalero, is indicative of the Spanish name for the New Mexico agave, which is mezcal. These American Indians depended upon that singular plant to get them through the winter. And they used several other native plants to prepare that plant for the winter. Not to mention weaving baskets and all the other wonderful things that they did with the plants here locally. And so if you imagine taking out those plants, the Mescalero culture would be dramatically different. And for those that don't know, this would reflect Geronimo, which is part of our national lore and thus our own culture as westward expansion continued across all the way to California. So it would impact our culture greatly to just lose one significant plant right here in Guadalupe Mountains National Park. And if we lose it today, we'll lose that connection to the struggles of the past. So today our struggle is to protect the New Mexico agave, the bear grass, the sotol, and all the other plants here that should be here in order to protect the struggles of the past so that we can teach the future. But okay, 90% of the time, you're not in a national park. So what does this mean to you? Why are you really caring about this topic, and how is it part of your day-to-day life? Well, the fishermen up in the Great Lakes would really, really be upset if they lost their livelihood. And that's a very real possibility with invasive species coming into the Great Lakes. Currently, the most dangerous is the Asian carp. They simply graze down the vegetation where the small fish grow and mature into the big fish that eventually become the fish that end up on your plate and provide the livelihood for these fishermen. So it touches everybody all across the country. Economically, culturally, this is a practice that's been going on for well in excess of a century. So these men who traditionally go upon the Great Lakes and brave the waters and fish for these fish now have to learn to do something else, and they can't share that part of their heritage with everyone else. That seems like a big problem. it really is too big, I think, perhaps for our visitors to encompass and to do anything about. So let's take it down to what people can do, what every individual here can do in their own lives, day to day, that doesn't necessarily inconvenience them in any way. It's simply a shift in the way we see the world around us. And one really easy thing is spaying and neutering pets. Bob Barker was onto something. It stops the overcrowding before it starts. It prevents all of these pets in the shelter if people would spay and neuter. But also adopting from the shelters. All of this reduces the number of feral cats and dogs that will run loose and impact ecological zones all around urban areas. Another thing that can be done is to use native plants in landscaping. And that's got multiple benefits. Not only are they beautiful and unique in their own way, but they're ideally suited for wherever you live. After all, they were there before you were there. So, as a lazy gardener myself, it's something I don't have to pay attention to. I can put them out and they shrug off the insects, they don't care about the rain patterns, the soil's just fine for them. There's not much to do once you get them started. And that is great news for anyone who likes to perhaps grow a vegetable garden, where they can really turn their attention away from the rest of the landscape and keep it on a specific thing, be it a vegetable garden or championship roses, whatever it is that you like to do. And so it's something that we really don't have to change much about who we are and what we do in order to preserve this natural heritage all around us. And the great thing about bringing these things home is it brings that heritage home. That place where you live can be a reflection of who you are, how you got there, and to other people, they can learn a bit about themselves by just visiting these natural places. So by bringing in little elements to your house and visiting these national parks all around the world, you can learn more about your heritage or the heritage of the people who live there in relation to that space and how they adapted and grew with it. Do we have any questions from the gallery?
I think that was very thorough. Thank you.